Hello, everyone. I am so honored to be joining this distinguished young panelists to talk about their lived experience as cancer survivors. Thank you so much for agreeing to join us and to be ready to share your stories in the hope of giving hope and ideas to other young adults who are going through the same experience. Please, I would like everyone here to speak about your actual diagnosis and a brief overview of your experience. Maybe Sydney, you can start.
My name is Sydney Chahonyo, and I'm a cancer survivor. At the age of 14, I was diagnosed with cancer of the postnasal space. And it took about 6 months to get the diagnosis right. There was a lot of misdiagnosis, but after 6 months, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was 19. I was just about to go to university. At that point, I started my treatment immediately. I was lucky that my parents could afford to take me to the best hospitals in the country. And I did about 5 months of radiotherapy. After that, I did about 5 bouts of chemo. And after the 5th bout, I was doing my checks to see whether or not I was strong enough to do the 6th bout of chemo before discussing what the next treatment option was. And at that point, they found there was no trace of cancer. And after that, you look at life from a different perspective. And I started looking for ways to give back to the community. And I was volunteering at pediatric oncology wards. And I'm currently the board chair of Hope for Cancer Kids. It's a civil society that raises funds to support children from low-income backgrounds that cannot afford cancer treatment. Thank you.
And now you have the coveted title of a survivor. Really great. Yokiko Nakao, if you could speak about yourself and your experience.
So when I was 1.5, I was in New Zealand with my parents and I had gotten a bad cold. So they took me to the hospital and the doctors ended up telling my parents that I have AML, acute myeloid leukemia. And so we went, straight into hospital, had chemotherapy. I don't know the names of the treatment by heart, but about 7 months later, I went into remission and now I'm here on this panel discussion.
Fantastic. Summer?
Yeah, so I actually experienced unusual bleeding when I was 24 in 2016. So because I thought it was irregular menses because the bleeding is like menses bleeding, so I thought it's nothing. So after half a year later, then I realized that something is wrong. So I went to see the doctor, and that is when I got diagnosed with cervical cancer. Yeah. And if I were to actually go to a doctor earlier, I might not have that cancer, but I went too late in a way. So
you went too late. Well, you're still here with us, so we'll know more about that. Dr. Gisimba Pintos, if you can tell us.
So, thank you. So I was 24 when I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So it started with a random abdominal pain. I just started suddenly one morning. It was really severe. I've never had that kind of pain before. I usually get like menstrual cramps, but this one was different. So I wasn't able to go to the hospital because my brother was sick. So I had to like put off my symptoms till the next day. So I saw a doctor. I was like, oh, you have an ovarian cyst and that I have to take it out. But I was reluctant then to have any sort of treatment because I was like, okay, it's a cyst. With my medical knowledge, I was like, oh, it's a cyst, so it's functional. So it's most likely common in women. So it's most likely go. I didn't need to do anything about it. So and the pain had resolved. But fast forward to 6 months later, the pain came back even worse. It was, including even so someone had to come to take me to the hospital, run some tests so that the cysts had gotten bigger, and I had to have surgery. So I had the surgery, everything went well. So they took the mass for sampling and all. And I got the report about 2 months later that it was cancerous. So it was a shock for me because I wasn't expecting it. There wasn't any family history or anything like that. And then with my medical man, I was thinking about, oh, okay, what am I going to do? Does that mean I have to start chemo treatment? But I was able to easily get specialist review, and the specialist was like, okay, what that surgery was the main for that kind of particular kind of cancer. That surgery was the treatment. So since I already had the surgery, I was fine. That I just needed to be coming for regular checkups, just monitor my body, and if anything is wrong, I should always come back. But as of then, I was treated. So that was it.
Yeah, I can imagine you being a doctor, right? Usually you know too much in one way, but you also in a way don't you actually also don't imagine things will happen to you. There is that ironic thing going on. So we have 4 young adults who've experienced cancer from different regions, and I wanted to pick up on what Sydney said, that he struggled, being, I suppose, in Kenya, where cancer treatment is still, right, a challenge, access to cancer treatment. You struggled for 6 months. Can you tell us more about that? And were you insured? Was it expensive? Because this is an issue for many, especially in low middle income countries, on how to get treatment. Can you tell us about that, Sydney?
Yes, initially I had just finished my A-levels and I was getting ready to go to school. And while I was processing my visa, I just started getting very mild symptoms, headaches, very mild headaches, flu symptoms, nose bleeding, but they were very mild. And after some time, the symptoms started getting worse. So maybe after about a month, when I realized that the nose bleeding is more frequent, the headaches are a bit more intense, I started going to look for help. And I went to different hospitals, all the best hospitals, private, public, and I kept being treated for different things. Maybe it's a sinus issue, take these pills, you'll be okay in about 2 weeks. Still hasn't gone away, go see another doctor and another doctor. And eventually I started looking for an ear, nose, and throat specialist. And somebody recommended one to me.
And were you able then to afford the treatment?
Luckily, my parents were able to afford treatment in the best private hospitals in the country. But that's not the case for most people, whereby you find that people are diagnosed and they don't have the means to pay, or they're from very poor backgrounds and they cannot afford even the diagnostic tests.
Yes.
And those are some of the issues we encounter here in Kenya.
Yeah, and in many countries all over the world. I'm a mother of a cancer survivor. And at the time when we had discovered that our son at the age of 2 had leukemia, we happened to be in the UK because my husband was doing a PhD course there. And actually, at the time in 1997, even England, the general practitioners actually did not have the awareness to know about cancer symptoms. And I think this is exactly what happened to you in Kenya. Had you gone to an oncologist from the word go, he would have, but the general practitioners don't have the awareness to look for those symptoms, and hence why you were delayed. And this actually happened with me personally. I kept going to the GP countless of times, and in my heart, I knew there's something wrong. Of course, in 1997, the last thing you would think is that your baby son has cancer. It wasn't in the radar then. People didn't speak about cancer in 1997. So it was a big shock when we found out. But it was really hard. And listening to your stories, especially also from Summer, now I will ask her about, your Summer, you live in Singapore. And, we expect Singapore to have top-notch medical service and more access to cancer care and so on. You have at least Sydney, he felt there was something wrong that stayed too long, perhaps, and you really went after it. I think the message here for many young adults is if there is something wrong that is, again, like Dr. Ejisimba said, that really feels not the usual. Everybody knows their body, to go and check it out, right? Summer, did you feel summer isolation during treatment, absence from friends? Of course, were you working at the time?
My challenges is more on how to overcome how to lead a new life with cancer. So actually, to be honest, my first diagnosis was quite okay. Like, okay, for when I first saw the doctor, or the doctor actually advised me to remove my womb. However, the experience was not that good because he just tell me straight that I need to remove my womb.
Mm.
And at the age of 24, I'm still single. I'm not married yet. So my life dream is to be a mother. And to remove my womb, you are just like crashing my dreams, right? And I just insist not to remove, and I do some online research myself, and I realized that there's actually other options. So I went back to the doctor and asked like, okay, so can I actually try this method? And they said, oh yeah, right, we can. Then I was a bit upset because like, okay, so if I did not research and I did not check with you, doesn't mean I'm going to lose my womb out like for nothing,
Yes.
you know?
That's such a great message, Summer, that to know that, you know, you empowered yourself in a sense. You went on, thank God you live in the age of the internet now, although, you know, sometimes reading the internet doesn't always give you the truth, right? It could scare you or not, but at least in this way, it helped you to know that there are other options. And great, because telling someone so young, you know, the issue of fertility, of course, is a big thing in young, whether for males or females, right? This is a big thing. And my goodness, you were mature enough, even at 24, to, you know, all by yourself to sort of explore that. That's amazing. Yukiko, you, of course, you were diagnosed at the age of 1 year old. And so many of the decisions were taken on your behalf, right? In some ways, like my son was, you know, I was the one taking all the decisions. He was only 2. And I know from research that actually has come through recently about pediatric cancer patients who survived from the treatments and the trauma, even as young as 1 and older, you know, young adults can go through some type of depression. So you obviously found religion when I read a little bit about your bio to help you deal with that. Can you tell us more about that, Yukiko?
It's interesting that you brought up the word depression because I didn't actually put it in there. But I did actually experience that during that time, and I did not I did not let my mom or my dad or any of my family member know about this because mental health isn't, it's not a thing in my culture. No one believes that, you know, you're either strong or you're weak. You're weak if you have depression.
Or you're mad, right? Or you're mad. Why would you, you know, yes.
Yeah. So I actually did mention it to my mom, and just because of my whole culture, she just kind of laughed because it's not a thing in my culture. So then I went off to Bible school, and you know, everyone there took that seriously, and I felt very loved and cared for. And you know, people underestimate the power of a relationship, and when someone is empathetic and caring, you know, genuinely caring, and that really does change and transform a person. And I really, that is when I overcame my depression.
You had mental health support. I mean, mental health support in cancer patients, especially young adults, you know, you've sort of faced death in a way, right? You faced death at an age when no one should, and then you survive it. And unfortunately, in many countries, especially in low middle income countries, in fact, even in my own country, who has advanced cancer care, you know, survivorship is more like, you know, you blow up the cake. Once you finish treatment, everybody claps, you're a survivor. And then the young adult says, okay, what now? You know,
Yeah.
what now? They're worried about discrimination at work, how to get insurance, how to, worried about fertility issues, marriage, the education gap, etc. Sydney, you're a man amongst all these women. Tell us about, your issues. I know you in a way, your therapy became you dealt with it by actually doing something back to the community to help others.
Yes, so I was 19 and I had just finished my A-levels. I was about to go to university. At that age, you're very excited about the next stage of life. Then this thing hits you. And, all your friends are, they go to university, they're going on with their lives, and it's like everything has stopped for you. One of the things I remember Yukiko mentioned, it was isolation, because, you're no longer in those circles because you're sick, you can't go out, you can't do this, you're having treatment. And I had so many friends, I'm a very social person, but at that point I realized that maybe 10% of the people I thought would come to see me actually came to see me. And some are coming to find out, okay, yeah, he looks like he's gonna die. Others are talking rumors about you. So there's that stigma. And you kind of just feel isolated. Even the doctor, when he asks you on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is the pain? He may have read it in the book, but he doesn't understand what that feels like. I had a very strong support system. My family was there for me, but they still couldn't really understand, what I was going through. So I say cancer is a very mental thing as much as it is physical. You just have to get to that point where you say, you know what, I'm going to fight this thing. Because if you go around, with your head low and, asking those what if, why me, you actually have worse days.
And I picked something up from you, which I experienced as well. I know when our son had cancer at the age of 2 and rumors were going around, and especially, no one really spoke about cancer really in 1997. Not the word cancer, they would say that disease, they would refer to it. And I remember hearing a rumor saying something like, oh, but she's young, she can have another child. Imagine, they immediately put a death sentence on the issue. But I also picked up something very important, the people around you. It's very important, I felt certainly, to have the right people around you. But I would like all of you, one by one, to, tell people, what changes you would like to see in your own country to help young adults.
Yeah, for the policy, people, I think it's more of like you are the first point of contact that patients go to. You are the support that we need. But if you don't have that compassion or kindness or understanding towards what we are suffering, then it'll be really hard for us to pull through whatever difficulties or challenges we are going through. So even with the support out there that might be available, but there are people also that are afraid to seek help. So if you are the one that we are seeking help from, I hope that we can get more compassion and kindness from you.
To the young people, if you feel that you are not supported by family and friends, just reach out in any way that you can find. We have the internet, there's so many people out there that you can reach out to, and you just never know. I'm sure there's heaps of people that would want to support you in any way that they can, even just, GoFundMe pages, strangers from all over the world, they can help you. Like, there's just so much help out there. You just need to reach out and look.
One thing I would like to see between people and change is simply awareness. Awareness that cancers can happen at any age, both young children, teenagers, adults, old people. So there shouldn't just be a box that, okay, this cancer is for when you're young, this cancer is for when you're old. That's basically just there to be more awareness on cancers and then what to do when you do get a diagnosis. And then symptoms. So you should take note of your body, be aware, and then what to do. Like there should be an outline treatment. If you think you have cancer, this is what you should do. You should maybe go to see this doctor that would want some tests, and then and there should be a process of okay, awareness, you have it, okay, what next to do, and then help as well.
The young adults, cancer is beatable. if it is caught early and you have access to treatment. Number two, to the policymakers, I would like to see more psychosocial support. If you think about HIV and AIDS, by the time someone was being diagnosed in the 90s, there was a counselor right there next to them who would talk them through and get them to the next step. In cancer, you're told you have cancer, and a lot of the time, your mind goes blank. So I would like to see a lot of psychosocial support, both from the point of diagnosis, throughout treatment, and even through survivorship. Because once the cancer has been diagnosed, then, there's a lot of things that you need to go through. And if the policymakers could find a way to, number one, navigate these people, especially in low and middle income countries, navigate these people through the process. And secondly, make it affordable, because there's a lot of treatment abandonment. The medicines are too expensive, the diagnostic tests are too expensive. And these are people from poor backgrounds who cannot even afford, to do the blood work. So we need to find a way to, number one, reduce the cost of the medicines, add them to the essential medicines list in all the countries. And then from there, just make sure that people are able to get treatment from the word go, and will not have to sell their land or borrow money or get a loan just to be able to get access to treatment. So there should be some sort of universal cover in different countries, whether it is just for all NCDs or cancer and other diseases, so that we make sure that these people can survive. Because in high-income countries, the survival rate for childhood cancer is about 80%. In low and middle income countries, it's 20%. So we need to bridge that gap by making it easily diagnosable at early stages and giving them access to treatment.
Thank you so much for being there. You are so wise, by the way, too wise. You know so much compared to when we were in your age. Thank you so much, really appreciate. And I hope we keep in touch. You have my email, let's be in touch, and good luck in everything, right? You're going to do great, lots of dreams. In a way, you've learned about how important health is so early on, right? Health is everything, right? And I know you've had that wisdom early on, so use it wisely. So take care, and thank you very much.